Hey, everybody. Are you with me when I say life can be amazing at times, but it can also be extremely challenging? I know, I've been there myself, learned some valuable life lessons along the way, and now I'm here to help you. It's no coincidence you found your way to the Relevate Podcast. I'm your host, Rena Olsen, a self-proclaimed inspirer of others. Together, we're going to dive deep into raw and honest conversations with real people. My hope is that through these stories, you too will be inspired and ready to tackle whatever's holding you back or breaking your heart. Then you'll be free to live a life of purpose and true fulfillment. I promise it's possible. Let's relevate. Hey friends, I'm so glad you've joined me for another episode of the Relevate Podcast. I hope you're staying well and feeding your soul ample doses of hope, not fear, during this time of collective quarantine. Speaking of hope, my guest on this episode of the Relevate Podcast is Becca Stevens, the founder of the nonprofit Thistle Farms in Nashville that rescues and helps to heal women survivors of sexual trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. In addition to her work with Thistle Farms, Becca is an author, speaker, priest, and social entrepreneur. She's been recognized as a CNN hero in 2016 and a champion of change by the White House. She is here today to share her story of hope and more about the mission of Thistle Farms, Love Heals. I know you'll enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Hey, Becca Stevens, welcome to the Relevate Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to talk to you, but I'm really grateful to talk to anybody right now.
So, yeah. And then you're in Nashville.
Yep, and we're on total shutdown now.
Wow. And then you had the tornado come through just a couple weeks ago.
You know what? It's crazy. It's been a double whammy for a lot of families. And so since coronavirus kind of shutting down on top of the tornado, all my work outside of Nashville has shut down. So I was on my way to Peru, to Australia, to go visit groups, to go do all this work. I mean, 8 trips have shut down that I was visiting partner groups and speaking. So I've started just collecting toilet paper from people who want to do a really beautiful spiritual act, is donate a roll of toilet paper. And I've been giving to all these folks who have been health compromised. A lot of the women we serve through Thistle Farms are health compromised. A lot of folks are in really vulnerable positions because of the tornado. So we've been gathering food. We have, amazing bags that we collect everything on our front porch. It's called Front Porch Pantry. So everything comes to our porch, and then people leave it. So there's no human-to-human contact. Then other people come and pick it up and take it to people who are in need. We have a huge list of folks that we can deliver food to. So there's this beautiful exchange of love, people aren't getting within 6 feet of each other, but you can feel the love transfer. I've gotten so many emails. There was a graduate of Thistle Farms who received a box on Saturday, including somebody had donated a huge bag of dog food, and she has this therapy dog. She has so much PTSD. We took it over to her house, and the post that she wrote later on that day said, "I can't remember the last time I cried in joy." Oh, gosh. So I'm busy as anything, but it's just like delivering toilet paper and dog food. It's pretty humbling.
Yeah, so amazing. So those supplies that you're receiving and then sending back out to the community, is that to serve specifically the people that you take care of, women impacted by sexual trafficking, prostitution, and addiction? Or is it really for anybody? It's
primarily that, but we're saying the Thistle Farms residents, graduates, and friends. And the friends part is that so-and-so knows someone and they had just got over breast cancer and they just really can not get out of the house for corona. So we are taking stuff to their houses as well, or people who have autoimmune problems anyway that have been a part of our community but not necessarily part of the residential piece. We're taking food to them. So far we've probably delivered to about 30 different residences, but some of those residences are the Thistle Farms residents, that are serving 8 to 10 people. So the boxes are pretty big. Mm-hmm. But it's been a blast seeing these people leave offerings on my front porch, like random people hear about it. I mean, it's so sweet. We had somebody that left a bouquet of roses. I don't know if they already had them at their house, but delivering those to somebody that is living alone, one of the graduates, it made my day.
That is just the symbolism of those roses. I mean, that's just so amazing.
I know, and they didn't care who got them. You know what I mean? It's just like trusting somebody to take this gift of beauty and share it with someone else. And then instead of those roses just being beautiful for that person, it came through my home and it was beautiful just getting to see them in the midst of this and then dropping them off, on the porch of someone who probably hadn't had roses in months and months and months.
Oh, Becca, that's living right there. When you can give that gift to somebody else, that's being fully human and operating in God's will. I mean, talk about hands and feet of Jesus. That is
Amen.
amazing.
Amen. Amen. And that's, when I preached on Sunday, everybody's now doing services, what's it called? Virtual services. Uh-huh. And we're the same way. I mean, we started 2 weeks ago. I'm an Episcopal priest in addition to being the founder of Thistle Farms. And I preached about really the spiritual discipline of sharing your toilet paper. Oh. Because it is, so I was in the middle of a refugee camp in Mexico when they shut everything down. So 11 days ago, I was in the asylum seekers camp in Matamoros, Mexico. So we were there to figure out how we can help with economics, with creating some enterprises, with being advocates for women who had been trafficked, doing all of that work. And I saw that there was this huge line of porta potties. And it was about the length of a basketball court. And what would have been mid-court, there was a woman standing there with a little table like she was a referee, and she was handing out 5 sheets of toilet paper to every person. And I kept thinking, we have all these political, government-to-government arguments about immigration, all this huge stuff. And when you looked at that, it was but sometimes all you need is a little bit of toilet paper.
Right.
And families are struggling and they're trying to figure it out. Well, then they said, we can't come back in the camp because we had flown. This was the same night. They said, you can't come back in. You flew here and you can be a risk of bringing the coronavirus to the camp. And so we flew out. And when I got here on Friday, I had already missed the whole run on toilet paper. Mm-hmm. And I was like, God, you know what? We could have used a referee like that beautiful saint standing mid-court in the midst of that stench of porta potties, regulating it. And that's when I was like, I really do think when we share instead of hoard,
yes,
there is plenty, and we can do this work. Like when you're saying it's love work, it's the feet and the hands of Jesus. And that's when it was like, I am going to work on helping people share their TP as my new Lent. Who cares if I gave up chai lattes? Now it's time to share toilet paper. That's my new Lenten discipline.
Oh, man. And, most of us living in the U.S., we have an abundance of everything. I mean, I could probably live out of my pantry if I had to for, if not months on end, weeks on end. We have such an abundance, but still our natural reaction is just to go get more, instead of hitting pause and saying, man, I got enough. I need to be giving this away so that my neighbors who really may be in need have some toilet paper. It's mindset. We just have to change the mindset.
Well, here's the other thing, though. Here's what happens. This is what I've learned and over throughout the years when we started Thistle Farms, when we started, 3 or 4 other not-for-profits around the world to work with women. What I've learned is that when you start sharing, there's more. It's not that there's less, there's more. Yes. And I can't even talk about how, People were freaking out that we were starting to work with women who were survivors of horrific sexual violence in a refugee camp from the Syrian war. I mean, just awful stuff. And we started working with them. They're like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a riot because there's not going to be enough. And I said, women have been sitting around making things, being justice enterprise women forever. And it's a response to trauma for us to sit around and weave a blanket or have a sewing bee or whatever it is. We've been doing that forever.
Yes.
And we tell stories. It'll be okay. There's not going to be a riot. There's not this mindset of too much scarcity. And I said, let's let our mantra be, no matter what, keep weaving. Like, just keep saying that. Like, in the face of war, in the face of trauma, in the face of refugees. Because, there's a huge link between women refugees and human trafficking. Huge link for young women. Anyway, we kept weaving, and 2 years later, now there's 43 weavers in the camp, and there's 5 enterprises, and they supply buses for 1,800 people to go get their needs and see what, in Athens. And they've started this beautiful way of, the women, once they started weaving, they started sharing their gifts, because all of us want to be sharers.
Yes.
Refugees want to share things too.
Yes.
But once you start that mindset of like, we're going to share, then it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, there's so much more than we ever imagined here.
Right. And talk about being in quarantine. It's when you're a refugee. I mean, most of us in America haven't really stopped to think about what that would really be like.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I think it's good to remember, it's like, these are really sweet times too, when it means something, like to give small gifts, to leave them. Obviously we can't see each other, but to leave a small gift for somebody at their door and just say, feel the love. That's it. Here's an apple, a fresh apple. Yeah. Know that I'm sending you love. That's it.
And you are not alone. You are being I'm thinking about you today.
But even a month ago, it might have been embarrassing to leave a loaf of bread or a roll of toilet paper at your neighbor's house with a note that says you're not alone. Yeah. They'd be like, what the hell is that? But now it's like this act of God. It's like, you know me in my need and you're with me. Because if you ask people, if you just call people and say, is there anything I can get you? All of us are going to say this. No. You're so sweet to ask. Yeah. I'm good. Thank you. I'm so good. But when somebody leaves offerings of saying, this is hard. Yep. There is part of us that wants to hoard, but I want to give you something. It changes the way people feel. It's radical. It's why Jesus always said, I want you to consider the grass and consider the lilies. He was in the middle of a revolution, and he knew, to consider this small, insignificant stuff was the revolution of our hearts.
Oh, my gosh. Preach, sister.
Love, love, love.
It's always the answer. Always.
I agree.
And we miss it. We get too wrapped up in what doesn't matter I guess it's of the world. You watch the news for 10 minutes and you are guaranteed to be depressed and without hope. But we know better. Our hope does not come from the world.
Yes. And here's the other thing I know is that since the time of Job, when the question is how long, the answer has always been, I'm with you.
Yes.
It doesn't, however long this is, people are asking that so much. Is it like, okay, are we on 2-week lockdown? Are we on a month-long lockdown? Do I still have to cancel my trip for this summer? There's a lot of fear.
Yes.
And I keep thinking oh my gosh, our loving, compassionate God keeps answering us. I am with you. Same as Job. Through it all, I'm with you. So it in some ways, it's okay for whatever the answer is of how long this is, because love, God's presence, Jesus is always, always with us, and we can get through it.
Yes. So true. So true. And we can't say that enough. We really can't, because the message is not getting through right now. And I worry about, and I know you treat a lot of women who were once in addiction and now we're in recovery. And that population itself is very vulnerable when you add isolation to it, because, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. So
I agree.
We need to send so much love and intention to those we know who are in recovery, because this time of that we're living in is just especially tough for them.
Well, let me tell you what people can do to help with that. So here's what I want to tell everybody. If you want to do something loving and compassionate, order soap online from Thistle Farms. Our online store is still going.
Good. Good
People think people think they have to have antibacterial soap. You do not. This is not a bacteria we're fighting. What you have to do is clean your hands, and our soap, and every CDC official in the world says soap is sufficient to clean your hands of the virus. You can order your soap that is made with love, that has antifungal, germ, lavender in it from Thistle Farms. Our shipping department is open. We are not short of this soap. That's something tangible you can do, and that is a loving, kind act. The second thing I will say is that we are connecting with each other every single day. We have made a point of everybody's on the phone with each other in our community, if they need to be. It's just an open Zoom call at 9 a.m. for anybody that wants to call in, so that no one is isolated as they're going through their recovery. So I just want to say to everybody out there, connect to somebody. Especially if you are in recovery or feeling alone. Just go on our website at Thistle Farms. We will have somebody call you. Do not be alone in this time while you are alone. Yes. The whole spiritual journey is a journey both about aloneness and connection. Those are both real things that we're all going through. So don't despair. Other people have gone through it, and they've made it on all through their lives on the other side. And so we got this together alone, if that makes any sense.
It totally makes sense. And this will pass. This is a temporary situation we're in, and people just need to look up and know that we're going to get through this, and we're all in this together, and we just have to keep the hope alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like, people just every day need a beautiful little hope shot.
Yes. What you got for me, Becca? Give me some hope shots.
Yes, you are a hope shot to everybody that's broadcasting it. You are a lifeline to people, and I'm glad to be a part of it. The very, very saddest thing, though, is that I have, just so you know, I have less than 10% of battery on my phone. I'm so scared it's going to die. So if it dies, to everybody out there, if my phone dies, I did not hang up. I'm just, once again, disconnecting.
Okay.
I had no idea my phone was so low.
That's okay. We can do it again sometime in the near future.
Yeah, we got all day, right?
Yeah. Okay, tell me something good that's happening at Thistle Farms.
Oh my gosh, there's so much good news at Thistle Farms. We are building a new residence for women.
Oh my gosh.
We already bought the land, and we have the two beautiful women architects who are working on a design that symbolizes recovery. It's going to be done in an environmentally friendly way. And we're going to welcome new women in. Thistle Farms is a global movement for women's freedom. It started in Nashville 23 years ago, and we have been growing and growing. We have 50 sister communities. We have 30 global partners now. But we always have about 100 women on our waiting list. So what we're trying to do is both grow our national network, which now has 350 beds. But we also really need to grow it right here in Nashville, Tennessee. We have a beautiful sister community in Atlanta called Beloved. If anybody that's listening to you is right near there. Beloved.
Love it. Oh my gosh. And
But that's really the best news.
These are free services, free treatment centers, correct?
Yes. So they're 2-year it's not a treatment center. They're 2-year residential programs offered to women who have histories of trafficking, addiction, and prostitution. They're offered at no cost, no authority living in the house. These are residential homes. So women go out and get intensive outpatient care or education and training for computers or work. All of that is outside. What these 350 beds are people's homes. That's it. They're your home for 2 years with no cost. And the idea is if women can find that sanctuary and that safe space, then all the other services can rally around them and do that work.
Yes. So amazing. So you started with one house in Nashville in 1997. Is that correct? And it was called Magdalene?
Yes. And then it became Thistle Farms when we started making bath and body care products.
Okay. And tell me how you landed on the thistle as your symbol.
Well, it was really natural. It was crazy. It was like everywhere I went to go meet women who were on the streets, like in the alleys where they were turning tricks or sleeping or doing drugs, there was thistle growing. And then when I went out to the women's prison to go visit and talk to women up through the chain link fence, there was thistle. And I was like, man, that's the last wildflower out there growing in these very, very bleak places for women. And that's when I was like, I'm going to call it Thistle Farms, and we're going to make stuff that's so healing for the body and freeing for the mind, and it'll be economically empowering for the women. And you know, I kept thinking about how when Jesus was talking about the lilies and the birds of the air, he said, even Solomon in all his glory is not arrayed like one of these. And that scripture came to me while I was looking at those beautiful purple thistles.
They are beautiful.
They're beautiful. Even Solomon in all his glory is not arrayed like one of these.
And they're strong. Aren't they strong like the
oh my
stem?
Gosh.
And...
Do you want to hear a crazy thing is that, okay, so when we had the flood in Nashville, Tennessee in 2010, it was a week after we bought the building where we were going to manufacture everything for Thistle Farms.
Gosh.
And everything flooded. I mean, everything. And the lot around the building was, it was like one of those mud pits that people try to crawl through to make the Olympics or whatever it is.
Mud run.
Yes.
Oh.
And the only thing growing out of that mud mash pit was a thistle. It can survive a flood. Nothing. I mean, the whole earth moved and the thistle stayed. And then when I went to go visit the genocide in Rwanda back in 2008, so 12 years ago when we first started our global outreach to women, I went to the Genocide Museum and 250,000 people were buried. And on the edge all around where the memorial garden was, I mean they buried 258,000 people at this memorial. And all around the edge, thistles were growing.
Oh, my gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
Did you just weep when you saw that?
I was like, how does it grow through rocks?
Oh.
I mean, 250,000 people is like 2.5 football stadiums of ashes and decomposed bodies. And through that, thistle was growing. And that's when I was just, I wept. And I still weep because it's like there's so much suffering and there's so much love.
Yes. And hope. And God's promise, I believe he reaches down and communicates with us in ways we don't even understand, especially if we're not paying attention. And you're paying attention and you are out there working and just... I'm just so thankful for people like you that are, because it started with your pain, right, Becca? Can you just tell us a little bit about the genesis of your story?
Well, my father was killed by a drunk driver when I was 5 years old.
Oh, Lord.
And he was a minister, and the guy that was running the church where my dad was the minister began to sexually abuse me. I was almost 6 years old, and isn't it crazy? It's 50 years later. I'm talking about 50 years later. I'm 56 years old. You know, I have raised, I don't know, $55 million. I've started 7 not-for-profit organizations. And still, that is the tender part of the story. And so really what I want to say to everybody who has that history is that's always the tender part of the story. It's always the place that brings us, rightfully so, back to humility and courage. And for me, when I went through all that, and it went on for years, by the way. My last memory is I'm almost 9 years old, and it was started when I was 6 years old, so it's 3 years of it. And and for most kids who go through that, that's like the first one is just the first one. There's always then at that point you have that internal mark on you where other people prey on you. But anyway, you know, even after I got ordained, in my mind, I really had a lot more in common with the women who were walking the streets than the people that were pastors.
Yeah.
I had more in common with the women. I understood how the world worked through their eyes more than the eyes of these professionals.
Yeah.
And I had so much gratitude. I had so much gratitude in my life. I had an amazing mom. There were women in the church who were so kind to me, who forgave me so much. And that's why I started the program. It was like, I really want to give back for all the gratitude I had.
Did you have a chance for healing yourself?
For sure. For sure. I mean, my healing process, I mean, it's, again, you're talking a long time. You're talking decades. But in short, my healing process, you know, and I think, again, I want to say this to anybody out there who's sharing that story, is that it's different in every stage of your life. It's not like you're healed and you never go back. It's a journey that you continue to visit and grieve and draw strength from.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, my healing process in my 20s was different than in my 30s, than in my 40s, and now in my 50s.
Yeah.
You know, but my healing process was everything from really doing this practical work of justice, of helping other people. That is very healing for your own life.
Mm-hmm.
It's also includes a lot of self-discipline. So, you know, I am a very self-disciplined person. I know exactly what I need to do to take care of myself, and I covet that, and I do that first because I know what I need for my peace of mind, and I go after it. And then it's, you know, a religious practice of prayer and reading and loving, all of those, you know, 7 fruits of the Spirit that we can exercise together. And then it's, you know, especially at the beginning, some really talented therapists who can walk you through the mental health parts of this.
Yes.
And in a safe way. You know, I haven't always done therapy, but in my life, there was a time where I really needed it.
Mm-hmm. And
when I went through that process with, a trained therapist, you know, they gave me some tools that got me through the next decade.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've never had the privilege of visiting Thistle Farms, but it's definitely on my bucket list. And I've seen some of the videos with the women, and they are so beautiful and so amazing. Just tell me a little bit about the women you serve there, Becca.
Well, the women I serve have changed my life completely. Starting with one of the first 5 residents, a woman named Regina, who became the National Education director, she's probably helped 500 women come in off the streets and do this work. You know, I mean, she taught me so much about trusting that the Spirit will move in the right moments. She taught me that. She taught me that if we keep just doing the next right thing, the board of directors and the money and all of that stuff will follow if we just keep doing the right thing. She taught me that. So many women keep teaching me about, like, you know, resurrection looks like all kinds of things. We should expect but be surprised by at the same time that there'll be resurrection in our own lives. Mm. That was great news for me. We can expect and then be surprised by it, because, you know, what I've learned through the women in the community of Thistle Farms is that when the Spirit moves in our life, it's always a surprise. Mm. It is always more abundant than we expected, and that it changes us so that we can never go back to the way we were.
So good. And I love the fact that you have industry built into your nonprofit for sustainability. I mean, that's such good business practice for the organization itself, but then also to be able to create meaningful work for the women that are there. Let's talk a little bit about how important that is for those women to be crafting those beautiful soaps and lotions, and how that heals them by doing meaningful work.
Well, I just want to say that I never did this company, you know, for women. I did it with women survivors.
Sure.
So that it's not just that the women are creating the products. They're also the head of marketing. They're also the head of sales. They're also the head of logistics. They're also the head of manufacturing. You know, there are so many jobs where the management has become graduates of the program that then train and do all this work with/for other women too. Mm. So Thistle Farms has grown exponentially and continues to grow exponentially because of the leadership of women survivors. It's not that we grow and then help women survivors. The women survivors have been the reason it has grown, and I just never want to forget that. Yes. I never want to forget the debt all of us owe to the women who've come through the program and grown that company. But it's so important, partly because I think it helps just get time under your belt when you're in recovery from trauma, from drugs, from the streets, from prison, all of those things, to be busy. That is a helpful thing.
Definitely.
And so Thistle Farms is a place where you can get busy. The second thing is you want, like all of us do, you want to feel like your life has meaning and purpose. And when you're a part of the Thistle Farms community and you're creating these products, it's like, oh my gosh, I am healing people. I am a part of something big. And I have so much meaning and purpose in my life, whether I'm making a candle or a body balm, anything like that. And then finally, I think we all want to be more economically independent so that, like, we can take care of our children, or we can have dreams about the future and, you know, make decisions on our own. We don't have to go back to dangerous relationships to find a way out. And Thistle Farms offers people economic independence. Mm. You know, we have pension plans, we have vacations, we have all those things.
So amazing.
You know, we're paying every single woman who is furloughed right now for coronavirus. Their job is not in jeopardy. They are safe because they are in this community.
Are y'all in quarantine as well? Or are you still able to continue any type of business operations? You mentioned the shipping is still
We are, yeah. So we have, at Thistle Farms, we have shut down our retail shops. We have shut down the cafe. We have kept manufacturing all the essential items for Corona. In other words, all the candles that might be disinfectants, all the soaps that might be disinfectants, all the immunity oils that are disinfectants. And we are doing shipping still. So there's parts of us that fall into the category of what is essential, and we are relishing in that. And the rest of us are going, you know, keep going, we love you, on the sidelines.
That is awesome. So tell me, I think I read where Jay and Catherine Wolf and their Hope Heals camp, the oil that they use for anointing, I understand, comes from Thistle Farms. What exactly is that? Do you know off the top of your head?
Which oil they use? I don't know particularly which oil they use. We make about 5 separate blends of oils, and they're all made with pure essential oils and then a carrier oil. And the idea behind that was that all the women that I have ever served in the last 23 years of doing this work have all experienced sexual assault, 100% onto their bodies. And I knew as a minister what I really wanted to do was create things that were lavishing for our bodies and lavishing for other people's bodies that were reminders of healing. You know, there's 425 scriptures about essential oils in the Bible.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Mm-hmm. And every time it's this idea of like, I'm just going to pour this on a body. I'm going to celebrate on the body. You know, it's such that thing. Somebody's going to be king. Go get the oil. Somebody's going to birth. Go get the oil. Somebody's dead. Go get the oils. Somebody's really, really sorry. Go get the oils. And so that was why we did it. And I love that they're using it at the camp with youth.
Yeah.
Are they using it with youth?
They're using it with people so their camp serves people with disabilities of all ages. So, yeah, it's people with physical disabilities that are getting anointed with your oil. How cool is that?
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And I love, let's bring that practice back of anointing each other with oil. How beautiful and symbolic is that?
I know.
Really
we need to do it.
About that.
Well, when you come to Nashville and you make your pilgrimage, your spiritual pilgrimages here, I will make oils with you and we can do it on your next podcast sometime.
Oh my gosh. Let's do that.
And Becca, seriously, I will do that with you for sure.
Okay. It is totally a date. Okay. Couple more questions. I know your battery power is quick.
I mean, I'm down. Let me tell you what I'm down to, just so you know.
Okay.
It just won't even show me. That's how low I am.
Okay.
I bet you got a minute and a half.
Okay. Close us out with Love Heals. What that means to you and how that's in play at Thistle Farms.
So Love Heals to me is the biggest mantra of my life. It symbolizes everything I believe in 2 words. It is the essence of who our Creator God is, and it's the essence of the work that we are supposed to do with one another in this world. Love heals. It's how we give. It's how we receive. It is how we make our way back home to God.
That's amazing. So if people would like to connect with you and your amazing organization, tell us how they can find you.
It's easy to find us. We're thistlefarms.org. Just go on the website, thistlefarms.org, and you'll find all of us and all your needs right there.
Oh, yeah. Let's buy some soap and some oil, people, and support this amazing organization. Becca Stevens, I can't wait to have another conversation with you. This has just been amazing. Keep up the great work. Keep preaching, keep loving those women, and you're just keep shining, sister.
Love, love, love. Bye.
Bye. Talk soon. Thank you so much to my guest, Becca Stevens, for appearing on the Relevate Podcast. Y'all, go visit their website and buy some of the products. That's a great way to support the mission and get some really beautiful and fabulous products. I had an order arrive yesterday with some essential oils that are seriously heavenly and some lavender body butter that is, it is so good. So to connect with them, the website is thistlefarms.org. Y'all stay safe and be well and keep listening and loving on each other. I'm Rena Olsen, and this is Relevate.